Tulsi Gabbard. All right, so Tulsi actually speaks about her role next to Trump and how she will serve our next president. I think that Tulsi is absolutely a rock star. If I ever had to, or if I was ever in a position to make a decision of a woman that becomes president of the United States of America, right now she is at the top of the list. If I was to ever select a woman that I thought would ever be the president of the United States of America, if you put a gun to my head and said, pick a woman right now, it will be Tulsi all day long. Make sure y'all hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. Let's rock.
Let's talk about everybody else and what matters here. The fact that we have all these troops in the region, this is an issue of sensitivity for you about where America is and why. Do you believe that this is something that will be rethought by the Trump administration?
Well, thank you, Chris. It's good to be with you on your show, and I appreciate you recognizing our veterans, my brothers and sisters in uniform, and the many challenges that our veterans in this country still face alongside their families. And to me, the most important commitment that veterans and servicemen and women should have from our leaders in this country, the best way to recognize that service and sacrifice and to say thank you is to make sure that our men and women in uniform are only sent into harm's way, are only sent to war as a last resort, after all measures of diplomacy have been exhausted. Now, this is one of the many reasons why I think so many Americans turned out to vote for President Trump, is because he understands this. And we've seen how through his last administration, he didn't just talk about ending wars. He actually went out and did that work of direct diplomacy. He went out.
That's one of the things that I never understood from the Biden-Harris administration, unless somehow they are indirectly benefiting from being warmongers, from the Democratic Party being warmongers, is how can you never speak to Vladimir Putin? How can you? The thing that we have to do is we have to learn from others and what they did well and what they didn't do well. And the one thing that Trump did incredibly well is he exacted a level of diplomacy that allowed for him to actually get more American troops home, to have no new wars. And then right after he left out of office, we in all of these proxy wars, and we spending more money than we ever have on countries participating in things that does not benefit the American people. And so when Trump says, or J.D. Vance, actually, J.D. Vance, he communicated this very clearly. I believe he was on NBC and he was doing an interview. And he said, listen, we can't say that they're our enemy. We can say that they're our adversary, but not our enemy, because we have to have a level of diplomacy in order to make sure that we don't have to be friends, but we got to do something that's in the best interest of both of our countries. And war is a zero-sum game. We do not want to be in it. We got to end it, and we have to have a level of diplomacy. And so I don't understand why. Maybe they're just completely incompetent. Maybe they're being advised wrong. But I never understood why Biden and Kamala Harris never communicated with or tried to end these wars. What did they think? That they just be in forever war? Would you think that Ukraine is at some point going to take over Russia? Stop. It's not going to happen.
Met with dictators and adversaries in that pursuit of peace for the American people. So in his next administration, and he was very vocal about this throughout this presidential campaign, that his goal is to end wars, not start them. His goal is to prevent World War III and nuclear war, and spoke many times about things that Kamala Harris never brought up during her campaign, about how he understands the seriousness of the stakes and the threats that we face as the American people, specifically because of the foreign policy decisions made under the current administration.
You see how well she speaks? This is in stark contrast to Kamala Harris. And she served.
And so I can tell you,
right,
as someone who still wears the uniform, I'm a lieutenant colonel in the Army Reserve, as someone who's deployed to multiple war zones in different parts of the world.
Unlike Tim Walz, she got a better record than Tim Walz and Kamala Harris.
The most important responsibility that any president has is to serve as commander-in-chief. And it's important on this day as Veterans Day, as well as you said, as every day, to recognize the best way to ensure our gratitude is shown to those who serve and their families is to make sure war is a last resort. And if it is required, that we take care of our men and women in uniform if and when they come home.
Y'all missed the word salad.
LTC, Gabbard,
I
thank you for your service, of course, and your family, because the whole family serves, no matter which member it is. The sacrifice is real. And you may serve again. What is your attitude towards being a member of the Trump administration?
President Trump is going through, and I know this is how he's spending a lot of his time right now, is looking at making these decisions about who he wants to serve on his team and in his cabinet. If there is any way that I can help achieve that goal and objective of preventing World War III and nuclear war, of course, I'd be honored to serve.
Where do you think you would be of most help to President Trump and this administration?
In a place where I can do that. There are a few different roles, I think, within this administration. But again, President Trump will make his decision, and it looks like he's already making some announcements this week.
They're coming out. We're seeing them. But you've never been one to want to play politics. Have you been active in the process, or you're just waiting to be asked?
No, I've been active as a member of the transition team. As you know, Chris, there are thousands of positions that a new administration has to fill within all of these federal agencies. And so we are doing our best to try to bring people together who support President Trump's vision, specifically as it relates to national security and foreign policy, to try to prevent what happened last time, which was he ended up with some neocons around him who were trying to, and I saw this as a member of Congress, they said yes to his face, and then around his back were trying to undermine his objectives so that they could feed their goals of continuing to keep us in a perpetual state of war to the detriment of the American people and our troops.
So she said that Trump had some snakes around him, and that's why he had to fire some people that was around him in order to put themselves in a position where they can govern more effectively this time. I think that Tulsi Gabbard is a phenomenal person to have around Trump. I like Byron Donalds. I like all of his picks that he's had so far. I like his chief of staff. I like RFK Jr. I like all of these people. I like Tom Homan. I think that all of these people are absolutely great to be a part of his administration that's ultimately going to make up as a dream team. Trump has the Avengers. He has the dream team around him right now, and people protecting him in order to make sure that they do the things that's in the best interest of the American people.